What's up, my people? Today we are talking about gaslighting phrases. What are gaslighting phrases? There's patterns to this, my friends, and if you can get good at discerning the phrases that guarantee gaslighting is about to happen, you can avoid being gaslit at all. Sounds good, right? That's what we're doing today. But before we dive in, I just want to remind you, like, subscribe. I am so close to 1,000 subscribers that it's this close. Please help me get there. Thank you. Every subscription means the world. Okay, let's dive in. Okay, I've collected a top 10 list of gaslighting phrases. These are the phrases that almost always mean you are getting gaslit. So let me start with you. In the number 10 position, we have, you misheard me. No, you misheard me, right? When somebody says you misheard them, what they're telling you is that you don't get to feel what you felt about what they said, right? Maybe it wasn't their intention. Someone who's not gaslighting you might say, oh my God, I misspoke. If that's what you heard, I misspoke. My intention was X. I did not mean Y at all. And I'm so sorry that it affected you that way. That's a legit human who's connecting with you authentically and with vulnerability. Somebody who's like, well, you misheard me. That is someone who will not take responsibility for what they said, right? So that's the number 10 position. Oh, you must have misheard me. Did I? Right? The converse of that, the healthy expression of that is, oh my goodness, I must have misspoke. If that's what you took away from what I said, I must have misspoke and I apologize. That's the right way to do it, right? So that's number 10. Number 9, that makes no sense. That makes no sense. There is an incredible documentary about the NXIVM cult. That was that whole sex cult. It wasn't really a sex cult, but they called it a sex cult. It was that guy, Keith Raniere, remember him? And they had this, it was fascinating for me as a communication coach to watch because cults are basically brainstorming at a mass scale, right? And one of the ways that they effectively controlled people was through language. And so when someone would voice an objection, voice a concern, say like, I don't like what's happening here, the phrase that they would gaslight with was this one. That doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make any sense to me. It was almost like this absolute invalidation of what is being said. It's like a passive aggressive way of saying, you're crazy and you're not making sense. If someone says that doesn't make sense to me, what I want you to do instead of taking the bait and being like, what do you mean? I would ask them, what part of that doesn't make sense to you? Put it back on them. Do not let them make you feel crazy, right? Now, if somebody really does feel like I don't understand what you're saying, it's perfectly acceptable for someone to say to you, I don't understand, explain. That is perfectly fine. But when someone says that doesn't make any sense to me, that is a value judgment. That is a dismissing of your point of view, and we are not having it. And that's why it occupies the number 9 spot on the list. Number 8, you're being irrational. You're being irrational. Oh, God, that's a bad one. That is a surefire sign you're being gaslit because, again, it is a dismissive statement. When you say something and it is loaded with emotion, let's say it's an objection, it's a concern, it's a fear, it's an observation that's upsetting, and somebody calls your reaction irrational, they are dismissing your truth. Everyone is allowed and entitled to feel whatever they want to feel. Truly. We are not able to tell another human being how they should or shouldn't feel. Now, does that mean if I'm angry, I get to punch you in the mouth or slap you on stage during the Oscars? Of course not. But we cannot tell another human being how they should or shouldn't feel. That's not allowed. It's not appropriate. But by saying to someone, you're being irrational, you are basically dismissing their emotions. You're calling them crazy. And that's why it's in the number 8 spot. Number 7 is this phrase. Oh, come on, be a team player. Come on, be a team player, right? When somebody says, come on, be a team player, what they're asking you to do is put aside your morality, put aside your concerns for the sake of the tribe, right? Lie, cheat, steal, whatever it is that the tribe's doing that you don't like, they want you to shut up about it or else you will be kicked off of the tribe. Come on, be a team player. Think about that. If you decide not to be a team player and you stand inside of your objection, that there is an inherent threat in that, meaning you're not on the team unless you play ball. unless you do what we're asking you to do. Pretty crappy, right? Come on, be a team player. To that, you can say, look, I'd love to be a team player, but what I'm seeing is X, and I don't think it's appropriate or right? That's when you want to separate out the idea of team from right and wrong. Very important to do that. So that's that one. Oh, but here is the one that I heard again and again and again all through my childhood is this one. You need to toughen up. You need to get some thicker skin. Listen, it is true that some of us do need to get a little bit thicker skin. Some of us do take things a little too personally. And to me, there is a difference. If someone comes to me and let's say, for example, they're in the client services business, which is notorious for having really tough personalities. Let's say you're at a PR agency or an advertising agency and you're a client, you're managing client relationships. Those clients are inherently tough to deal with. And you do have to develop a thick skin and an ability to not take things personally and get the job done. Having said that, it is one thing to tell someone, you know what, he is a really big personality or she is really difficult. Let's work on some tools so that you can be stronger going into those meetings. That's a better way to say that. To tell someone to toughen up, that is gaslighting, right? To be told you need to toughen up, it feels terrible. It makes you feel weak. And so what you can say instead of you need to toughen up is you can say, you know what, let's get you some more support because some of what that person's doing is annoying, but it's not inappropriate. It's just difficult, right? That's an okay thing to say. What's not okay is you shouldn't feel the way you feel and you need to get tougher. Not okay. And if you're on the receiving end of that and they say you need to toughen up, I think it's really worth calling a timeout and saying, hey, timeout. I understand that there may be some skills I need to acquire, but I need you to know that I feel completely justified in feeling the way I feel, right? Stand with the way you feel. You're entitled to it. And also, you need to be open to pick up some new skills. Now, if the person that says you need to toughen up, suck it up, buttercup, doesn't have anything to offer you, that's a bad manager. And you just say, look, it would really be great for me if you could actually give me tools to work with rather than just telling me to suck it up. That's a fair thing to ask for. Oh, here's another one. This I see all the time when a new corporate strategy gets rolled out or new messaging or new something happens, something gets rolled out at work and you call a timeout and you're like, the emperor has no clothes. This is funky, or I don't understand this. If the other person says to you, well, you're the only one that doesn't get it. You're the only one that has a problem with it. A, that's rarely actually the case. And B, it means that they don't actually have a good description or a good backup plan to walk you through what it is you don't understand, right? So if somebody says to you, you are the only one that doesn't understand this, you can say, you know what, that may be the case. I still need some help understanding this because my sense is A and B and you're saying C and D. So help me with that delta, right? It's that same strategy we talked about before, but you are not the only one that doesn't understand it. Trust me. Or how about this one? You're reading too much into that. You're reading too much into that. This is a classic sentence designed to make you question yourself. Perfect gaslighting move, right? And my favorite response to that is, you may be right, but I'd still like to raise it as an issue. Please explain, right? Or that may be true that I'm reading too much into it, but I am concerned and my concern is valid, right? Stand your ground. And we're coming into the final three. You know what? Don't be so selfish. You're so selfish. Why are you so selfish? Anytime somebody calls you selfish for needing what you need, not okay. Somebody who's a healthy communicator will say, gosh, it sounds like you need X. Let's figure out a way to get that need met. Selfishness shouldn't enter into it. Anybody that is judging you for being selfish, for asking for what you need, gaslighter. So explain to them patiently, I understand that you perceive this as selfishness. I need you to know it's coming from a place of legitimate need. And I'd love your help figuring out a creative way to get those needs met. Maybe we don't have the right resources in place, but I'm sure we can come up with a creative solution to this. Nobody can argue with that, my friend. And now we're in our last two gaslighting phrases. You're just being paranoid. Look, somebody calling you paranoid is gaslighting and dismissive just the same way as them calling you too sensitive, which is the final. Listen, anytime somebody says you're being too paranoid, it's actually the same thing as when somebody says you're too sensitive, which is the final one, my number one. The number one gaslighting phrase ever is you're being too sensitive, in my opinion. That is an unofficial Bronwyn's opinion, but that is the number one. And number two, you're being too paranoid. Those two share something in common, and that is that someone is taking whatever your emotional reaction is and dismissing it and saying it doesn't matter, that you are getting invalidated, which is a classic gaslight move. We're not standing for it. So my favorite response to you're too sensitive or you're being paranoid is to say, hey, time out. I just need you to know my perspective is legitimate and valid. You may not share it, but it's legitimate and valid. Hugely important script. But when somebody says you're being too sensitive, I love this one. Ready? That may be true, and I may be too sensitive. But what I'm asking you to do is respect that sensitivity. Respect that sensitivity, boo, right? Respect that sensitivity. Notice all of the responses that I'm offering you to gaslighting. They are clear, they are warm, they are direct, and then we stop talking. The worst mistake we make is we talk too much when we're dealing with gaslighters. Stand your ground, say what you need to say, and then stop. Get on out the room if you can. You don't want to give them any more of your energy than they're already getting. So listen, those are the 10 phrases that will tell you whether or not you're being gaslit. And once you learn them, you cannot be gaslit anymore, my friend, which is always the goal. So thank you for joining me this week. Drop me a note. Let me know what else you want to hear. And whatever you do, shine on. We need your light.